When you choose a surrogacy agency, you're selecting an agency that you can trust to take you through the journey, that you can trust to help you choose a surrogate, because ultimately then you need that surrogate to trust to carry your baby throughout the journey. And so there's just a lot of trust in this process. And hopefully that's what you're doing today, is going around and talking to people and listening to your gut. Who can you trust? So we are here today to talk to you about us and to talk to you about our firm. So let us introduce ourselves. I am Diane Henson. I'm the owner and founder of Creative Family Connections. We've been around for 18 years. I founded the company, and we're in the DC area. We have lots of clients up here in the New York area and along the East Coast, and actually throughout the world. And this is Jen Lang. Mm-hmm. Jen is one of our case managers, who you're assigned to a case manager at the point where you are introduced to your surrogate candidate. But Jen, we met when she was actually one of our gestational surrogates. And she went through a journey caring for some dads, and now she's in the process of starting it up again for another set of dads. So Thank you. So before we get into her background, because I know everyone always loves to hear about what makes somebody want to be a surrogate and what it's like, let me just talk to you a little bit for a few minutes about Creative Family Connections and how I think we're different from other agencies. And the first and most important thing is that we are also a law firm. So we're a law firm that does everything a surrogacy agency does. And that means that we're held to a higher standard. We're held to a higher standard in terms of being ethical, and we're held to because lawyers are regulated and agencies aren't. And so you've probably met a lot of people from agencies here today that have nothing to do with lawyers, and you may have talked to some where they're co-owned, but we're one single integrated agency. So what difference does it make for a law firm? Well, first of all, there is no national law for surrogacy. So you need to know right from the start, like what's the law? And so I talked this morning about the map. And this map took us about a gazillion hours to make, because you can't just Google to say what's the law in a particular state. Like, your case will be sealed for privacy, to protect your privacy. So the way we had to do this map was to talk to lawyers who practice and are expert in the particular state. And it's evolved over time. Thankfully, it's evolved, because when we first started doing it, there were many, many more green states when we did it. This is for married same-sex couples. There were many, many more states, twice as many states for our hetero same-sex couples. And then since the Supreme Court decision in Obergefell, it's been evolving. So now when we compare the two maps, we can see that it's actually almost identical, except for Mississippi. And that may not be on the top of your list of where you want to go. So Mississippi is yellow for our caution state for our same-sex couples, and a green light state for our opposite sex couples. But otherwise, we've got all these green light states that are open to you. If you're a single dad, or if you're not married yet, the law may be slightly different, but there's still lots of green light states, and that's the good news. But we only want to put you in a state where we can make sure that you will be named on the birth certificate, and the court will declare that you are the sole legal parent, not the surrogate, not her spouse. So the other thing is that as I said, we're held to a higher standard. You get a confidentiality. You get under the attorney-client privilege. Everything you tell us is confidential. You don't have to worry about us passing it on, even to the surrogate. And you are a client, so your interest is paramount. I'll go to conferences, and I hear people talk about the fact that because as agencies, we also facilitate the surrogate's journey, we can hear things from the surrogate, and it may be something bad. And then they'll say, well, what do I do? Do I tell the parents? Well, we don't have that question. We don't have that conflict, because as lawyers, and it applies to everybody in our firm, whether they're lawyers or not, your interest is paramount. What that means is we tell you everything. Knowledge is power. So even if it's bad, we're going to tell you what we've learned about your surrogate. And the only question that we have among ourselves is who calls you? But you will learn it. You don't have to worry that we're going to hide anything under the rug. Also, your money is protected. It's held in a lawyer-managed trust fund. It's not ours until we earn it, so you get various protections there. And you know, stuff happens. If you ever had to stop a journey, you know, midway, there is none of this, once you pay us, it's non-refundable. It's, you know, only what we earn is earned, and the rest actually is very refundable. So our goal, as I mentioned this morning, is to make your journey as happy as possible, as stress-free as possible, and legal and ethical. And that's always our overarching goal. So now let's turn to Jen, both a case manager and a surrogate. And let me ask her some questions. And if you have questions of your own, feel free to jump right in. So the first one, of course, is Jen, why did you become a surrogate?
It's always a tough one because it's just something I've always wanted to do. And as I was saying in the last meeting, so my twin sister is actually a surrogate as well. And I don't know how young we were at the time, but I know we always talked about the fact that we would carry for each other if the other one couldn't. And it was just something we've always been interested in. And then after I had my 3 kids, it's a lot of kids, but it was time to help another family. That's what I really wanted to do, was help another family grow. It didn't matter if it was heterosexual or same sex. I really just wanted to help a family. It could have been a single parent, could have been anyone. Just wanted to help a family grow. So I joined Creative Family Connections as one of the surrogates and was matched with a wonderful couple, which they go through a really extensive matching process to make sure that we match on all of our views. You know, we wanted the same communication. We wanted the same thing if we were to have to terminate, which nobody wants to talk about, but it does happen. So, you know, they go through all of that so that by the time we met each other, we pretty much knew that we would match as long as we got along. So.
And Jen's experience is very prototypical, that, you know, our surrogates are women who are done having their children, but their children are the most important thing in their life, and this is their way of like giving forward.
And helping another family.
And helping.
And we usually like being pregnant too, so maybe it's a little selfish
They love
reason.
being pregnant, but as our surrogates say, it's kind of win-win because they don't have the diapers at the end. Which
as soon as I had the baby in March, I was like, okay, now it's yours. I'm done. They would try to hand it to me to hold, and I'm like, nope, now it's yours.
Right. So that should give you comfort, because I know as prospective parents, our parents are always like worried, like, how do I know she's going to not have any issues at the end? But the surrogates are just the opposite. How do I know they're not going to have any issues at the end and take this baby? So
it's just something the whole time I was pregnant, I knew it wasn't genetically mine. It was no point my child. My kids were 4, well, he's 5 now. 4 is the youngest. All of them knew exactly what surrogacy is. They all know there's different ways to build a family. Families consist of he taught his preschool teachers about it and would talk about being a surrogate to the teachers. So it was just, you know, she came out. They didn't even ask to meet her right away. They didn't meet her for a few weeks. It's just because of flu season. I'm not getting someone else's child sick. So, you know, it was never, like, everyone in her family and friends, everyone knew it was another person's baby I was carrying. So it was honestly an awesome experience. So
that's what we want to hear.
That's why I'm doing it again.
So then why did you decide you want to work for Creative Family Connections, something that we're very happy with? But
So I was actually a nurse for 10 years, so it's kind of an odd switch. So I quit nursing to be a case manager, but I love it. And it was, you know, I had a case manager obviously along my journey, and anytime I had an issue, whether it be needing money for something financial, you know, you don't want to talk to your intended parent about things like that. You want it to be a nice, friendly relationship. So I could turn to my case manager and say, you know, this bill needed to pay, or this whatever needs done, and the case manager could work that out. And I also, you know, I knew they did such an extensive check on other surrogates because I know they did an in-home visit with me. They came and made sure that my house was a good place for me to carry a baby, that no one smoked, which I was a nurse, so obviously no one smokes in my house. But, you know, it was just that I knew that they cared. So even though they are looking out for the intended, they still do care about everyone involved.
Absolutely. So. A happy womb makes for a happy baby. So we do facilitate that journey. And but we also do a very extensive check ahead of time. We start with over 100 applicants, and in the end, we only take 1% to 2%, over 100 applicants each month, and we just accept 1% to 2% because we want the ones who are going to sail through the process and also then be a perfect match for you. I see a question in the back. Yes.
Yeah, is it common for agencies to do in-home gestational surrogate visits? Or is that
It's not that common at all. I think when we started doing it, we were the only ones who did, and now I see that there are some others that are doing it, but I see on the listservs where they're looking for someone who can do it for them in a particular locale. We always have somebody from our own team do it. So somebody from our own team will, even if it's a flight somewhere or a drive or whatever, somebody from our team will do it because we trust the judgment of our team member, and it's not an extra charge to you, it's just part of that match fee. But we feel it's really important to see the environment, to see the neighborhood, to see the home, and then also to be able to sit face to face and make sure that the surrogate's spouse or significant other is on board, and also to make sure that her body language comports with what she's told us in her application and on the phone. To make sure it's the right match, especially on some of these really tricky issues like termination, which is a big deal. For you, it's your life. So yeah, that's a really good question. Thank you. So the other thing that we can ask Jen is in terms of other differences, like about the introduction meeting. Do you want to tell us about that?
So I actually looked into another agency, and it was kind of like a quick phone call. They never were going to do an in-home visit. It was just, they would give you, so some agencies do it different ways. Sometimes you'll see like a list of 3 surrogates, but none of them may match what you want. So it may just be, like we extensively make sure everyone matches. So when you get someone, like look at a profile, you know that they match on all of your topics. And so with, as she was saying, the intro call, by the time you get to that point, you know that all your views are matching. So then we go into the intro call, which is sometimes every once in a while in person, but usually it can be over Skype. You have a case manager, so it'd be me if I was your case manager, and we would do the call with all of us, the set of attendant parents, and then the spouse and the surrogate, if there is a spouse. And then the case manager will lead you through all of those tough questions, because again, you have to make sure that you keep agreeing on the termination or the amount of embryos you're transferring. You don't want it to come down to transfer time, and someone thinks they're having a double embryo transfer, someone thinks it's a single embryo transfer, and then last minute problems with that. But you're not just sent out to a restaurant somewhere to figure it out. You have someone with you the entire time. Right. That would be very awkward, in all honesty.
And a lot of agencies do. They'll just say, here's your contact information or here's your Skype. But we're going to support you through it. And later in the pregnancy, we're going to start your court work at 15 weeks, and then we're going to do a hospital birth plan because we want everything to go smoothly at the hospital. So we're going to
we want to make sure they recognize you as the parents. And most hospitals do, but it's just making them aware of who you are. And then you could always go on a tour and meet them as well. But it's just so that when you get there that day that your baby's being born, could be last minute you're arriving, everyone knows what's supposed to happen. Everyone knows that you're the parents, you make the decisions. And your surrogate doesn't want to make the decisions, but they don't always realize what's going on.
Right. So we're going to have a written birth plan, and it's going to say you are the parents, and you have the medical decision making, and you'll have the wristbands that are tied to the child. We're actually going to ask for a room for you. So that your parents have a room where it's like, nearby, so that you can visit each other, but she has her privacy and you have your privacy and you have the baby with you. And then the nurses are like, we can teach them how to be dads. And so
it's a good chance for you to bond with the baby and to have the nurses coming in and helping you with things new parents don't know, like how to swaddle the baby, how to change a diaper, but then you're not having the surrogate in the bed next to you trying to rest.
Right.
Recuperate and have her kid free time because her kids are at home and she gets the hospital stay to not have them.
Right. I mean, basically we've been doing this now for 18 years, and so we try to think of all the details so that you don't have to worry the details. We want you to just have this really amazing journey.
And I will say the birth was picture perfect, could not have gone any better, and I'm sure the birth plan helped with that. And just not all agencies, these are things to ask when you're looking at agencies. Ask what they do before birth, ask how they plan for things, important questions to ask.
Yes.
Just a quick legal question. If I'm dual citizen with a European country, how does that work?
So we would work with the counsel from the other country, and we would make sure that we also take any steps so it would be easy for you to get that dual citizenship. We do that a lot. A third of our clients come from abroad.
Through your agency as well?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yes. Yes. And it's good to know that in advance, because that way we can make sure that we're matching you in a state where we can take those steps as necessary.